Thank you, Imela, everybody, for your patience. I am Ezenwanyi, Amarachi, Rachel, Nwokoro. Ezenwanyi is a Igbo feminine embodied high priestess, a healer, and a channel to the divine. Amarachi is an Igbo name meaning grace, divine grace, God's grace, grace of the soul. And I want to say thank you for your patience. I have just been warring with Google Chrome and YouTube and technology, and finding that as somebody with a high proclivity towards perfectionism, as some here may relate, finding the mess of things not progressing in a linear fashion to be very anxiety provoking. So I have just spent 20 minutes outside the realm of time trying to get to you, trying to be live, trying to be live, trying to be live, trying to be alive. And that is really the theme of this live, to speak about, to express, to explore, to reflect on with you what it is to be alive right now. As a soul, as a spiritual being, having a human experience in flesh form, I really want to hold space and ground and be like, you know, things are not all okay. the struggle of like going through all this chaos and feeling alone in it is overwhelming. It can be really overwhelming. And that can go from big things like family decisions, job moves, exploring your inner and outer world, to like struggles with technology, with just some imperceptible thing not going right, not going according to the fantasy, the idea, the illusion, that the story that we have made up that feels like it is order, feels like it is the way, the judgment that would feel better than the state we're currently in. Don't worry if it feels really hard to stay connected with or to track the things I'm talking about. These are poetic reflections, and the vibe is to really let it wash over you, to be present, to allow yourself to be loved, and for that to be the aim here, to like bring some kind of honor for grief, for love, for the unknown, for the mysteries, for the things that are so beyond words. And I think that is a real deeply embodied practice, to be able to hold space for especially low vibrational energies like grief and rage and fury and injustice, chaos and confusion, ambiguity and lethargy and dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction being a real essential part of existence. Mystics and seers and psychics and intuitives and highly sensitive people throughout the ages have all recognized that there is an interconnectivity to living, and there's also suffering, you know, and that's part of it. And it's a part of the human journey to be like, I don't want this, I want anything but this, and to try to seek knowledge and unlearn what I will now refer to as our belief system, just to bring it a bit more down to earth, because I'm going like higher and higher and higher. And like I said, some of the reflections that I'm going to bring to this space are just like stars and sparkles for you to know that if things feel like they aren't working or functioning in the way that they normally would for you, the way that you've learnt success should be achieved is not proving materially successful any longer, and you're being confronted with reactivity in your body. I'm sure like here in the UK there is a big like mantra. I mean, let me say it's mantra for some, but for others it is propaganda. For myself it is a bit of a prison right now, the phrase of keep calm and carry on, because what I hear and I'm listening to as an intuitive is a huge conflict and tension between the planets of Saturn and Uranus, and Saturn representing this like energy of learning lessons, the teacher of time, and Saturn is the ringed planet that reminds you of your limitations, your fears. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm in flesh form, like maybe I need a boundary. Oh, and I've got to learn it that way. Really, Saturn is like, yeah, you are unique. Like you have your own outside form, and it can be very paternal if you like look at gender or anything like that, in a kind of spiritual energy way, rather than a oppositional binary idea of gender. And then Uranus is this planet of miraculous awakening and the new and change and innovation and finding light and insight and adventure and genius through change and sometimes even storms. And what I'm seeing in the collective is this huge resistance from traditional, patriarchal, capitalist, plutocratic, very wealth-oriented, very old-oriented in a wounded way, not in a way that holds reverence for the old and our elders and says, yes, we can learn from these people, but in a way that says, I am nothing if I do not follow this stagnant instruction manual or belief system that is actually killing me. It's not serving me anymore. And this is where Uranus is coming with lightning bolts that's like, try anything, disrupt, be chaotic. You're in quicksand and you have to try anything to get out, escape. Are you really free? And there's a huge tension here with people, communities really trying to clear their throat chakras in whatever way to vocalize their disdain for governments. And there's also a lot of lethargy about how exhausting it feels and how much resistance there is. For me, anyway, I'm very much like, wow, being an activist on a day-to-day is really meaning learning how to rest, especially with having experienced complex trauma. Hi, Mama. Hi, Okodi. Hi, Chimoge, and anyone else that is live and listening. I really invite you to write any questions in the chat. In a little bit, I will read some poetry if that feels like it could be supportive. Let me know if hearing some poetry sounds nice. And like, feel free to please like write any questions, even if it's words that you've had on your mind at the moment and actually beyond your mind, like had it in your heart, in your spirit and in your soul. I think there's this big thing definitely in the UK, and I would be interested to hear like about what it is like in other spaces, that it is boring and uncool and tone deaf to go deeper. This statue that I have is, oh, great, thank you. Really great to have you here too. So grateful to have you here, Jack. Akodi. This statue is, well, it reminds me of the principle of Sankofa, which is go back and get it, go back and reclaim it. It also is a part of Igbo cosmology. The Chokoloko bird is like an ancient mythological creature akin to the heron or the crane. And essentially, you know, it was one of the creatures in Igbo mythology that spoke the name of spirit when the people forgot it, or spoke the name of truth when the people forgot its name. Like there is just like there are seasons of weather or like time of the year, like, you know, that we notice in the different hemispheres. In Igbo cosmology, we recognize seasons of time, seasons of energy, and there is an Uga, which is a component of time that represents an energetic time of backwardness, where people are separated from their relationship and their recognition of their own truth, their own, whatever that is beyond words and is like wrapped in you. It's like your accord and, or for, in Igbo you say for your accord with your life. So when you agreed, if you can perceive that there's a possibility that you could have agreed to be here, you know, that's a question that philosophers bring to mind. I personally am of an empowering relationship with incarnation. Even though I struggle with chronic suicidal feelings, I recognize that I wanted to be in this life and I want to be in this life. And even at my lowest ebb, I have consistently fought to affirm life. And so I really recognize as an Ezenwanyi, as a traditional healer, the Igbo ethos that you have everything you need inside you. I have been saying this a lot, and that is like knowing that like we need community, we're interconnected. However, like there's been and let me not say however, and needing connection, needing physical touch, needing sensory pleasure in this material world does not mean that without those things we are lacking, that we don't have abundance, that we have something missing. And that is something that I really want to clarify, that so for example, there's a part of I have dyspraxia in the kind of pathological Western diagnosis of it. And so my undiagnosed neurodivergence, having potentially autism or ADHD, and really struggling to have an affinity with time so that I'm 20 minutes to my own life, that could so easily fill me with shame. Can you see? And yet I had to begin by going back to get my self-respect. Because how am I going to hold space for you when I'm here feeling all type of way, feeling like I don't deserve to be seen, being heard, be like connecting because of this arbitrary social standard. Thank you, Jim Morgan. It's so I so love and appreciate that grace. But I think it's something, and I also think it's something that is we don't afford each other very often, in recognizing how imperialized like our minds are. In the UK, we have this latecomers policy. I'm a playwright. I write plays. I make theatre. I love storytelling as well as truth telling, and I love playing and playmaking. I feel and I know that it is medicinal. And one of my passions and forms of justice in putting on one of the plays I'm writing is going to be to get rid of the latecomers policy for my run. Because that in a lot of theatres in the UK, there is this like closed door shadow judgment that is like, you should have been here and you weren't here, so you're all the outsiders now. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Let me just start feeling my heartbeat. Because it's like we're all equal, but I feel like I'm kind of like now shoved over to the side, feeling othered and feeling like having care needs, having like care responsibilities, being poor, like having, struggling with mobility, having a city that has no step-free access, having different obstacles to getting to the physical material place suddenly creates a psychological energy of like persecution and judgment, and that can really heavily affect Black people and people in the Pan-African diaspora. I think a lot about undiagnosed neurodivergence and what connections there are between visionaries, dreamers, people whose minds have more capacity to explore different realms, and people who see patterns and synchronicities and speak poetry and connect with magic, essentially. And thank you. Currently making sure, getting rid of the coming back in after leaving for the show I'm working on at the moment, to make sure a young person who may need to leave can come in. Their needs don't mean they should have to miss the show. If they need a timeout, #accessible theatre. Yes. And then it's like thinking like, how do we look at where we've come from in terms of our roots to understand that there is grief, and and that might need like seeing, and that the people that feel the grief might not want to be seen. Like, I've been trying to do this live for 3 years, you know, and I've just had, well, I developed selective mutism from many different aspects of my complex trauma, and also found it really difficult to be seen, to hold space for myself and to hold space for others without feeling overwhelmed. And I realized that, like, doing that was also what made life meaningful to me. So, you know, the contradiction of being like, I deeply want meaningful connections, and to be able to uh, reflect on soul and spirituality, and I'm running from those very spaces. Like, I paid for a course with one of my brothers, Derek, at the Medicine Shell, to learn my indigenous language, Igbo, in February. And I haven't redeemed this course. I've not been doing it. I've been doing so many other things, and I'm grateful for Creator and Flow and my angels and guides that have been supporting me to stay alive. But I also recognize that there's a wounding there that makes it feel very audacious to want to speak my own mother tongue. And it's not a joke, it's metaphysical. And that is so heartbreaking. And like, some people could be like, oh, don't make such a big deal about it. Just go, you know, just go. Until you feel like that's part of my Chiron wound. If you know anything about embodied astrology, Chiron is the wounded healer. It's the constellation, the asteroid, the archetype that represents your core wounds, that also show you your starkest lessons and gifts. If you are able to be with and embrace and navigate and dance with, walk with, cry with, weep with, and release the things that you have been through, rather than repressing them, then they can show you and give you talents and parts of yourself that you would never have been able to access otherwise. So me going sometimes, because we can be quite taken with a linear approach. No, Chimoge, the Chiron is different to the North and South node. Chiron is an asteroid. And please, like, if this doesn't fit for you, you are welcome to quit. If you would like to verify anything that I'm saying, I welcome corrections. I love learning, and this is an open source space. I'm in progress, just to say. But yeah, from my knowledge, Chiron is an asteroid, and North and South node are a point axis on the moon, and North South node is the things. North is where you're heading to, your destiny, things that most align with your higher purpose. And South node is the stuff that you're coming into this life with. So your baggage, your all the stuff from the past in this life, like your childhood wounds, your unmet needs, your complex traumas. So these things have been, when I'm talking about decolonizing healthcare with Black Mind, I can't lie, like, some spaces do not have the range to support healers, to support people that are working in compassion-based or heart-centered terrains. There is a real high level of care and peer support that I'm seeing being built, but I'm also seeing being screamed for at a rate faster than practical tools are being replicated. Like I have fibromyalgia, which is a chronic pain syndrome. I have more nerves, and my nerves are highly sensitized. So I feel pain, the same amount of pressure of pain, twice as much as someone that doesn't have this pain condition, really to do with a hypersensitized nervous system that is constantly firing on all cylinders, finds it really hard to allow me to relax and to believe that I'm not at threat. And so any pain that I'm feeling, it will like refer the pain to like get my body to tense up and be ready for for whatever I've already been through. So I when I talk about Chiron, this wounded healer, I have a vocabulary and a narrative and I have a vocabulary and systems and a connection with compassion around chronic pain and complex trauma and how it can make you mad, like mad. And I say mad with a capital M. In a way that a lot of people can't hold that kind of empathy because, yeah, I've lived it. I've lived through what being abused and experiencing violence can do to you, and how you can become disconnected from your own personal values to the path that aligns with your soul and your body, and from acting in a way that feels like it's good to breathe so easily. We get rewarded in this life for masking. We get rewarded for leaving ourselves behind. And so this creature that is a reminder to look out, to speak your truth, to say your own name, to say you belong here, to assert your needs and desires. And then also to remember that's the sun energy, right? And then to remember the moon, to remember the importance and value of night, to remember that we must also go within. It can't just be pow, 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 what we love to do, echo chamber, like I have something to say, I have something to say. I am really subject to that, to think that my opinion matters. My opinion doesn't matter, you know. What? You know, what is what is happening is happening, like whether I like it or not, it is happening. And so like I've learned to be able to not just rely on external engagement, but to also to remember that there is a wealth and a universe within me that maybe there are some things that I, in that void, in that darkness, in that abyss, that I need to retrieve. Have I left a part of myself behind within me? You get me? Am I so busy with putting other people's names on my mouth that I forgot to look within, to pause and just believe that my breath is enough, that like that I can rest without a reason? And am I aware that I can see beyond the truth that is given to me? I know it's a bit poetic, it's a bit mystic magic, mystic madness, as Sabrina Lynn is a high priestess that I followed for many years on YouTube, that I really recommend for people interested in looking into embodied astrology, new moon work, full moon work, looking at the sacred masculine and feminine and union between these energies, and so much more, looking at archetypal psychology. These are all ways that move beyond a medical model of looking at the body-mind structure, but actually look at a more holistic view of what was going on when you were born, and like what's happened in your life, and how has your life affected who you are now, and how are you unconsciously moving through the world. That's been so much of my journey, has been being like, admitting that how much of me wants someone to come and save me, and that is not an empowering rhetoric for me. That neither is the rhetoric of of people around me to for me, it's not helpful for me to think of healing as a linear journey. There's no endpoint. In fact, categorically, as a mystic, one of the big enlightenments that have come over the last few months has been the collapse of the medical model for me, the collapse of psychiatric deification. I've seen how much violence and bloodshed and neglect there is, and also how much accountability I need to give to myself to avoid replicating patterns of self-abandonment. Because sometimes when you're waiting for somebody to recognize you as vulnerable and worthy of attention, we can neglect to see that we are not bearing witness to ourselves, that we're actually like, if we're actually thinking about it, when we look in the mirror, we're like, and then like putting out this energy that's like, people like, please come and please spend time with me. But then when we're with those people, we actually have all our shields up and have a big sword in our hand. Psychically, the aura is not open, the heart is not open, the spirit is in warrior mode, and it's not like soul warrior, soldier mode. It's like destructive warrior. It's chaos warrior. That is like, I want strife and destruction for strife and destruction's sake, because I'm sick of it all. And that wounded space can burn the whole place down. And like, who am I to say that, like, there isn't a space for death and rebirth? But for me, as a practitioner and a space holder, I care very much about harm reduction and about being present and intentional and discerning. And that has required the process of like looking outward and looking in, to be able to speak my truth outwardly, and whatever that is, and also to be able to do the inner work, the shadow work that says, sometimes I'm the dickhead, sometimes it's me. Sometimes like I didn't turn up for myself. Sometimes I silenced myself. I erased myself. I devalued myself. I cut my price point twice as low as it should be. I was ableist. I didn't try to pronounce their name again. I did everything that I wish was different in the world, because I can be very, very analytical and try hard to recognize that we're not just here to be thinking all the time. We have a huge propensity to be overthinking as humans, and balance is really about, can we feel this experience? Can we be with it? Can we listen to it? Can our breath be enough? Can you remember when you were a baby and you didn't need a reason to be held? Can you love yourself like a blade of grass and allow your agenda for the day to be that uncomplicated. It's scary how accurate natal charts are. Yeah, I mean, like, it's wild to me. It is such a wealthy terrain for self-discovery if you have the patience and the resource and the sometimes even the peer support or the validation from people to learn a new language. Essentially, it's just like learning another language. It's another lens with which to look at the world, and it can give to you, and it also can be, it cannot serve. It is only useful as far as it serves. But I find, like, and I find, like, you know, it's so funny how base level the whole rhetoric of I don't believe in astrology is. It's like, it doesn't even make sense, the things you're saying. Try having a womb, you know what I mean? Like, and then ignoring that 6 planets are in retrograde right now. 6 whole planets. In fact, it might even be Mars is turning retrograde now in on the 30th of October. So it makes total sense that everything that is coming out of my mouth, even directly or indirectly, is about reflecting on the intentions behind your actions. Because I'm in the foreshadow period of this Mars retrograde. So I, as a channel, am feeling like, like, don't just be moving from going to war, moving from this place of wounded warrior to be like, I get to fight for my passions. I get to fight for what I'm hungry for. I get to, I want to fuck. I want to do this. I want to do that. I crave this. And forget to embody it with light, with heart, with soul, to be like, where is this place coming from? What is the root of this? That's the looking within. You know, it's not, it is like Mars is a very, like, lower archetypal energy of passion, of aggression, of masculinity, of what are you willing to fight for? What are you going to go out? What will you go out and do now? What are you going to do? What are you going to do about it? Yeah. And it's going retrograde, which basically means, to break it down for you very simply, is like the planet is going in the other direction. And about 5 or 6 other planets are already going in the other direction to what they usually go. And it's like how that reflects in metaphysics and in mysticism, as within, so without, as above, so below. Nature and the cosmos are a reflection of us, whether we see it or not. You know, some people are tuned in, are listening, and are bombarded by the sensory input, and some of us are like, la 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 la, you know. But that is what is happening. That Mars planet, in astronomically speaking anyway, is actually turning in the other direction, and then we interpret that with the language of astrology to say, wow, the space within us, from where we move and react and fight, and like, what is guiding that space? Am I moving from my wounded space? Am my actions, or am I stagnant? Am I not moving at all? And is that what is required right now? Do I need to pause and wait and, like, do a system reboot, a overhaul? Am I moving? Do I need to troubleshoot? Is my, like, operating system out of date? And am I, Amarachi Rachel, behaving from like thoughts and feelings and beliefs that are like 2 years old? That's the kind of vibe of a retrograde. Is like, come on, reflect, reclaim, rethink, refeel. It's not just one hit, done. It's like, you have a heart, you know. And all this grief, it needs holding. Yeah, I feel like I am definitely talking about complex trauma, chronic pain, and feeling like a worm in a very intuitive way. That was the that was the vibe of this live. And I have my offal with me. I also have this, which is my poetry book. Back when I was calling myself only Rachel Nwokoro and not Amarachi Rachel, which I now prefer. And I'm here to just say that, yeah, art, creativity, free expression, movement, nature, as someone with multiple chronic health conditions, that has saved my life. And so that's a big part of the truth and story that I have to share here. That's why I created Black Mind as a healing arts organization. That's why I've been on a journey of decolonizing my relationship with my healthcare and my spirituality. And that's why I've been unmasking and recognizing that there are seasons to forget and there are seasons to remember. And some of us, I guess, in fact, all of us, because look at where we're at, like all of us would benefit from reminding ourselves and each other of the home within. Like the space that says you belong here without verification. You are loved. We want you to be exactly where you are and how you are. Keep going. And then maybe stop and take a sacred pause and then do a bit more. Like, you're doing great because you're still alive. And I'm so grateful you're still here. And I just really wanted a space to say that to people because I've been dealing with chronic suicidal feelings for the last few years and fighting so hard, like holding on to life with till my nails are like raw and bleeding. I'm holding on to life with everything I've got. And I resonate with a scream in the collective that says, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And I know that there are some voices in other parts of the world that are space holders in this kind of way for people right now to say, like, you're not mad feeling that there's a psychological apocalypse happening. You're attuned. You know, I see you, and I can just feel a real gulf and lack. I feel a absence of a sort of like in some ways in the UK. There's some people that are holding it down. Many of them, as historically shown, are usually feminine, Black, and have like aligned with the belief that, you know, if we need to speak up and use our voices. And I just want to say thank you to all those that have been using their voices and their expression, and all those that have been listening over the last few years openly. that's huge steps, to be honest with you, to say like, oh, do you know what? Maybe I've been wrong. What is even wrong? And maybe I've been it. There's still a lot of like resistance and stagnation and like gripping old to the old like suffering models of like perpetuating suffering. And there's also a lot of social justice, community, peer-based liberation technologies being built, and a lot of pioneers, cultural pioneers, Kelechi Okafor being one of them that like jumps to my mind at in the UK at the moment, who are very vocal in like connecting to magic, to social commentary, and to speaking truth to power. And like, yeah, thank you to, yeah, I think it's a love, it's a bit of a love letter to the Black feminine right now. Pan-African femininity, our collective womb that we can ignore, betray, dismiss. And I would love to read a poem right now that is a part of a piece that I'm working on at the moment. If that feels good for you guys. It's it's a work in progress, exploring my relationship with masks and unmasking. And I'm really glad you all are here with me, live and alive right now. Ooh, 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 easy. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. We wear the mask that fawns and fusses, numb, pent-up feelings, stubbed toe chasing buses. I swore I'd never chase a bus again in my life. But the numbers failed, and there be taxmen and there be strife. So we carve out gaping holes and stuff in wails and weeping. Stop the sobs and screams from seeping out, creeping about the edges untidily where the light should be. There's wispy sentiment and a smarmy ha 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 ha. Crow's feet etch and claw, a left on too long smirk, jaw swollen raw. Tight winged shoulders twitch and jerk, temporomandibular flaws. We're rushing so much more than I ever remember prophesized. We can hardly breathe or recognize the skies, but still, hee, ah, ha, ha, ha. Thank the stars, these things arrive with holes for oxygen and self-defeat. What a bargain. Cheap, 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 says the bird. I've lost my song, but gained confines, fake warrants, and barbed wire fear of getting the words wrong. So, instead of feeling safe enough to express wild frustration, I wear the smile that adds more inflammation to my vagus nerve. Real emotions? No! Quick, swerve. We wear the mask. It's an inheritance to admit my life has been a bit of banter, really. One great fat cockpit of torment and laughter. Clearly a mad and simply wild encounter. If I'm deeply honest about this life of mine, it's been rife with prancing chaos and outrageous punchlines. Rogue police abuse, don't you get it? Aha! Tee! My life is an epic comedy I can hardly believe. So, why am I late, you ask? I beam and I grin. Cover the shame of time blindness. Try to win, distract you from my aching hips with politeness and outstretched lips. Rapturous meal of stories and endless vocal din. A banquet of curated aesthetic. My life has been a never-ending smile and don't you ever fucking forget it. I smeared it on for them with a table knife and outdated rhetoric. Always kept it cute and hella domestic. Upheld the no soul system decorum that my grandma affected. Nothing to build on but crinkum crankum colonial ideology stew. I expect more of you. I expect all of you. Could you keep it professional? Smile, say cheese and carry on. Keep calm for Uncle Tom. Keep it cool. Stay in line. My uni named me Little Miss Sunshine while I was suicidal. Depressed out of my mind. Can you imagine? Bare sweet. Darling Ray Ray is psychotic, drowning at 4 a.m., seeing stars on the clinic floor. But Durham psych wards are still simply too full. No support for you, Petal. Sling your sweet hook. Late night black rose, trying to resist the crook of the river's tide. Shh. Too much now, Amarachi. Yes, you emo freak. Discomfort, disease, conform. And most of all, remember to hide with twinkles. Ka-ching! Watch the nurse take your blood, surrender and submit. Don't resist. Say it's fine. Stay open, vain, vulnerable, tender, aligned, and cuckoo ka-choo with glee while she barks out of nowhere, quite violently, whether you ever actually stop talking. Good one, Pauline. It's only a bloody Thursday morning. Bit early for a hostile takeover, granted, but now here we are. Clear attack planted. Kapow! I giggle and release. Aiming to please our mutual phlebotomy needs, I release my entitlement to kindness or care. Spare yourself the trouble, my dear. I wear the mask. Watching this red oozed rain, spirit sunken, no refrain, but a he and a ha ha ha. Ho, ho, ho. Suddenly I'm drowning in my own hemoglobin. Healthcare with a noose. Dong. Broken-hearted awoken. Swallowed tongue. Mute sorrow. Trust undone. Inner screams distort the connection. Tissues tangles and chronic torture. This medical trauma is not what I ordered. This machine is a lie and a damn pagan scam. There's no cure. There, I said it. Yes, we know, but poor lamb. We still smile while we are breathing. Invisible fumes from collapsing castles and burning beliefs and denied relief meant learning how to survive by chuckling at our own funerals, while being told 5 years of pain seems to be utterly incurable. And what is more, you're making us all feel awkward, dear, with all your suffering. It's messy. And frankly, here is not the time. Neither is it the place. Be traumatized somewhere else. We don't want to see it. Could you move? Leave our office. Give us some space instead of insisting on floating between vague torture and pondering existence with this attention-seeking kind of intensity. This is unbecoming of a proper lady. Could you be a more perfect patient, survivor, victim? You sit there as if you have the right to wonder what kind of creator would do this to such sweet souls. You make it inescapable. All your questions are a bit too real, and your lived experience bullshit is getting surreal. Could you just wear the damn mask, you buffoon, and pretend not to feel? We wear the mask. Become a champion. Let the chains erode my skin. Every damn morning, metal wakes me, heavy handcuffs masquerading as clumsy wrists. I chortle, ho ho ho, silly me, dropping that and dropping this. Oh. I brush my teeth and extract the abuser's voices out of my ear canal before the post arrives, then replace them with sounds of the sea. still struggle to feel beautiful without disgust clogging the flow. Oh, ho, 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 ho. We wear the mask. Over the 3 years, knots and bolts in our necks, the sub-occipital screws, the shape of the Met Police's prone restraint. A crescent smile crawls up my head and leaks out of my eye. When I reflect on my life, I bellow so hard, it's an eternal cry when I think about my life. I could chuckle and snigger at how many people I know want to desperately call me and how old white people love to scrap with me unprovoked. I swear, on the streets they glare, turkey-necked, purple-veined, venom-choked at my freedom, like my breathing shouldn't be free. Furious at the loudness of my spirit, I titter, tee-hee, as I can see that these ones would tax my heart if they could. And I want to erupt, but instead, I snicker and I keep it cool. No disrupting, no tears, no fears, no feeling unclear. I remember my father bows his head to his jaws, brow buried, unprocessed grief galore. He says the dog bowl is never empty, and he smirks. He is confused about the words I use and says, let me fix it. Don't you know it was our sacrifice that fuels the world you love? I say, Father and Mother Maya too, I'm dreaming a radical day where you see your work is finally done, where retired means tired again, out of charge, war won, masks disarmed and shields down. Can we rest without reason, please? And burn the to-do lists. A sunflower never had a task reminder. She finds her way to the light without emails, Excel, or excellence. And maybe the essence of the quest is true presence. A mere mission to breathe in the way your body wants to. Soothe that aching jaw and improvise! Imagine it! Light work that's literally light, as opposed to heavy duty, romantic martyrs and forgetting how to dream. Oh, Papa, won't you sit on the floor with me for a while? Or look me in the eye? The moon is mighty bright tonight, and honestly, all I ever wanted was your attention. Isn't that the maddest thing? I'm just gonna stop there because I realize the piece is actually, it's part of a it's part of a long work in development. So I'll just be here going tan 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 tan, story, paper, poetry. But that is a section of a journey I'm working on called An Experiment in Tenderness. And this piece is inspired by a poem written by Maya Angelou and Paul Laurence Dunbar called We Wear the Mask. And as I've been unmasking and learning how to hold space for my expansiveness, my authenticity, and questioning and challenging what too much means, I have been able to recognize that I have built, as we all do, lies, like personas, these identities which do not align with the deepest part of me. I've got these masks that I wanted to find a way to look at with compassion and explore how society also projects these masks on to us and questions why you are not being what our outer form, what our profile prescribes we should be. Thank you for listening to that. That was a real joy to share, and is a real devotion and testimony to the power of poetry as a form of channeling, giving a architecture to the unseen realms, and giving a tongue to the soul. If I'm being totally real with you, a big part of my heartbreak in being in the theatre industry in the UK at the moment has been feeling a real absence of heart and soul. I mean, it's there, it's bleeding, it's in our faces, of course, but it's like so repressed. Oh my God, all the feelings, so much trauma and abuse and pain. And it's like, can we talk about the blood? Because some of us are just actually like, will I be alive tomorrow? Thank you, Mummy. Oh my God, what a fan. So yeah, this has been nourishing for me, because I am a channel, and I build up with I don't know what uche is, what I would say in Igbo, but I receive a lot, and for someone that receives a lot, it's important to give, and I also do give a lot, but there are different ways to give. And a lot of this work is work that I've been alchemizing through my wound healing, and it feels at this point, with how much pain I am hearing and perceiving from the collective, it feels very hard for me not to go beyond my comfort zone and connect with you, to say I see you. In Igbo language, ahurum ginanya means I love you, but it also transliterally, I made that up, that word. It also, like, metaphysically, let me say, it means I see you. So there is a real deep poetic embodied connection between feeling seen, being seen, seeing clearly, and the mutual feeling of love. Those things are connected. Visibility, bearing witness, and showing up, being present in community is a huge part of love in African psychology, particularly where I'm from, but also in the diaspora in general. There is Nakuona, which is also ICU, and in very many languages and dialects, this is a knowledge that we know in our skin, but we have forgotten. And there is a lot of technologies set up to help us to continue to forget ourselves, make it so that we do not recognize ourselves, that we find it very uncomfortable to look at ourselves in the mirror. And it is radically important that we fight that we are able to play with ourselves and also take ourselves seriously, like look at ourselves in the eye as we wish others to look at us in the eye. Yeah, thank you so much for the gratitude for the poem. That's really what I was hoping for when I make some of these more long form pieces, is for them to become ritual themselves. Like there is a journey and a mythology within them that I do not feel I am alone in having experienced. And for you all to be saying that you feel seen, and that is energizing you, and it's connecting with your chi, with your inner spark of divinity, with your self-recognition of truth. That's what I also needed to feel like I'm not alone on being on this journey. So thank you so much, everybody that is turning up, that has turned up tonight. I just want to do a temperature check because this is a community space, and not the last open space that we will be doing live with Amarachi. I could read one more poem and then bring us to a close, or I could answer some questions and then bring us to a close, or we could do some deep breaths and leave it all for another time. Does anybody have any preferences? How are your energy levels? What do you feel like? Questions, another poem, or shared breathing and then bed? How are you guys? Questions? Okay, great. Great, thank you. Yes. Wonderful. Okay, so I'm open the space up to, if there's maybe one question or one or two very short ones that if anything instantly comes to mind, I invite you to bring your hand to your chest, your heart space that can really support with receiving, and also to bring another hand and bring it to your womb. Yes, if you are in a masculine body, you still have a energetic womb, a space of creativity just below your belly button. And it's important to bring that space to our attention, even when it's difficult, because it's a big part of our source. So if you can hold those spaces, try not to lift your shoulders while breathing. And as another sacred artist that I respect, Dr. Tamer Bryant, says, let's take some sacred pause. Feel free to write any, doesn't have to only be questions, it can be reflections in the chat. I know it can feel really exposing to put your foot forward and say something that personally resonated with you, but that is food for me. And everything that you contribute in this space is right. I hold a safeguarding and a safer spaces policy. So, I will moderate any comments that do not align with respect and love. But you don't have to filter if you just want to put an emoji or any gentle comment or reflection that's come up, it will be very welcome. Chimoge says, a comment, seeing how you move your body when you speak/channel has made me realize that that's something I need to return to. When I was a little kid, I used to make weird movements when thinking. Weird. What a delicious, precious comment to have received from you towards the end of this stream. thank you for helping me to feel less alone, because I'm even containing myself a bit, funnily enough. I know I'm so expressive, but this is me metaphorically like sitting on my hands, and I'm still all over the place. If I felt more autonomous, I would even be moving around the room. That helps me to think. It helps me to, as you say, channel. It clears my throat chakra. It keeps me focused, actually. And I would make circles around my ears with my fingers and say wee oh when thinking to myself. I stopped at some point because I thought it looked bad to other people. I think I lost something. Thank you for sharing that. That sense of loss is definitely, grief and loss is definitely something that I feel is very greatly felt for us as Black people, as for people in the diaspora, for people in other communities, feeling like we've left something behind. And I just want you to know that that's part of that retrograde period, and these periods of reflection, allowing ourselves to take pause and maybe even to say sorry to ourselves, or look for self-forgiveness, or to say, you know, I forgive you, or thank you. To pause can really open up space to recognize that we have disconnected with, or put a judgment on a part of ourselves that actually makes us really unique, and that can very often be learned as a child. Like, I definitely learned to mask as a child and to hide some of the ways that in the corpse autism and neurodivergent community, it's really called stimming, self-stimulatory behaviors that support to regulate your nervous system and to help you to integrate sensory experiences. And yeah, these are behaviors that are labeled as being chaotic or messy or clumsy or out of order, you know, or too loud or too much, or like, you know, not poised. And really want to give space to release some of those judgments and bring space for inner child healing, and give authority to our unique forms of self-expression and movement. And thank you for using me as a mirror to see a part of you that you have left behind. I open up a loving space for reclamation for us all, and I believe in it. I've seen you use a cane at times. I'm currently wanting to get one, as I know it will help me with where I'm at. I used to use a wheelchair. It's not new for me, but it's been a long time. How do you get over the stigma of using aids not full time? I'm so scared to use walking aids again, but I know my body comes first. Thank you, Jack. Thank you so much. So brave to talk about Black disability, to talk about the stigma of having dynamic disability, which is essentially a very fluctuating in appearance and in the way that symptoms show, having many conditions. That means that one day you are like buzzing, jumping around with energy, actually doing up stretches and hyperactivity, and another day you're like bent over with pain and fatigue and non-verbal and can't even articulate your needs any longer. And how hard that can feel to communicate to your support systems and loved ones that you know that it is not fun feeling inconsistent, even when there's a very reliable part of you, because by the way, you're still here. So we are still here. So I just want to say there can be a real shadow and shame and stigma of feeling like, oh my gosh, you're not very committed, or, you know, like, I'm just going to be real, like, so much of Black disability feels like the imposter syndrome is like, I'm lying to myself, I'm actually well, you know, I can actually do everything. And the culture most, family members, friends, the rhetoric that is said that feels like it's, I know that it's with the highest intentions, and yet it doesn't feel empowering. Very often people say, I don't think of you as having a disability. I don't think of you as being sick. I don't think of you as having chronic illness, and can be very weird about seeing you with a visible marker of your difference, of your disease. It suddenly makes you a part of public knowledge, like someone that is pregnant, is like suddenly. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. It's not a compliment to say that I don't think you have a disability, because you're just showing your ableism. Essentially, you're just showing that you think that being disabled makes those people less than. And actually, I'm just trying to live an honest life. I am disabled. I have disabilities. I have multiple health conditions. And I also am disabled by the society I live with. The conditions themselves are disabling and can be disabling. And also the world that I live in is disabling and can be disabling, in that it does not make life accessible for me as someone with many conditions. And that is the truth for many people. What's the big deal about it? Oh my gosh, are you okay? This is just one part of me, and yet suddenly it's like drama. And then no one wants to be disabled. Like, it's basically, I've just really, that's a big part. I mean, let's not say it's why, but it's a big part of why I have, in this stage of my career, going on into my 30s, I have aligned with the Amarachi part of my name, my middle name, Amarachi, because it means grace, soul grace. And I need it. And I need to remember that I am it, even when I am a nightmare. I deserve love, respect. It's not contingent on the way that my distress looks. It is not contingent on whether my illness conforms to a particular socially accepted aesthetic, whether I am deserving of love and care. And so sometimes it's like my journey of unmasking has been allowing myself not to be the perfect victim or savior, as I said in my poem, or teacher or survivor. I also, in terms of a practical thing I can share, is when I'm working with people, I have built an access rider. We are developing a number of workshops to share with Black Mind as a program. One of them is Make Your Own Access Rider. And I put in it, and I give it to people at the beginning of a project, and I say, please share with all team involved. And it says, like, I use a mobility aid sometimes. I don't want people to talk about it. I think at one point I said, I don't want people to be weird about it. And then my support worker was like, maybe we can, finesse the like, tweak the language of it. But yeah, basically what I wrote a lot of things about my symptoms and how and what support needs I might require, what might be helpful to me, and also like what is not helpful, what would actually be damaging. And what is damaging is going into a professional space, not to talk of the fact it happens in social spaces, because that's hard. That's something I'm still navigating because of the like, like baby girl, inner child, like need to belong, I'm compassion. But in professional spaces, going into them and like, what's wrong with you? I did a job once, and someone said to me, I thought you were faking it for the role. Some really odd, strange things to happen in this 2022, which has actually just made me take claim to the fact of my disability more, because I get very outraged by the sort of the lies, like the pressure to lie, the pressure to say that I'm something that I'm not, and the pressure to act like I'm some way that I, to disguise and hide and perform. It's been something that has been laid at the feet of particularly harm survivors for a long time, as a way to stop institutions and places and people with power from having to interrogate the harm that is perpetuated in society. And I've just started to say, stop, asserting boundaries. So access rider, that's one practical route. Asserting boundaries it's hard, but it's been like, I don't want to talk about this right now. I don't know why it's anyone's business. Like, my health records, do I need to talk to you about my health records before I can get a drink? It feels like people look at you like, and I know it seems like it's coming from a place of care, but really, yeah, the sunflower, I do find I love sunflowers as a flower. So you've started to wear a hidden disability badge at your new job, and people have been decent and not awkwardly been inner. I just wear it so people can be mindful. Well done for saying that, because I've got these badges as well. They're not for my mobility aid. Sometimes I struggle to speak. I got them on Etsy for my self-diagnosed, currently waiting on the 2-year waiting list, autism and ADHD, because I noticed how in my family networks, in my social circles, and in places where people remembered who they thought I was, and it conflicted with what they were seeing, that it could be taken very personal when you just, stop speaking or being able to function, or like when you react to things in a certain way. And I found it incredibly heartbreaking how much I've struggled to communicate what's going on inside. I can't do it in time with the sort of social anxiety I'm experiencing. So these badges, these practical tools, which Uranus, the planet of miraculous awakening and innovation, has been in Taurus for some time, which is this bullish, slow, patient, hardworking, sensory earth sign of like practicality and pragmatism, and like we gotta have these things, these like tools that we need to feel them. We got to feel them. So yeah, like I've been really enjoying building tools and equipment that mean that support me to express myself in different ways. Oh, you have this badge as well. Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, the sunflower lanyard is something that as a team member, I'm of Black Mind, and a founder, I'm like very keen on investing on some for all of us. Actually, we're mostly a lived experience team, and all have like needs that need to be illuminated, and are learning how to assert them, but that takes time, and sometimes you need support faster than you can do up explanation. And so yeah, having these very quick forms, hacks, communication hacks, can be a lifesaver. Chimoge, an open-ended question is how to return to that when one has been away for that from so long. How to return to a freedom of movement. Basic level is like get out, like stand up now and like move your body. Like my body cracks and aches when I move it, and also like get some kind of instrument. This is ogene. Place make some kind of noise. Wah, 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 wah. Move your body freely and without censor to answer your question, which is essentially about inner child healing and to not self-center yourself. Writing, like I said, automatic writing, doing free writing, waking up and just writing without saying anything you write is wrong. Don't worry if you write something that seems perverse, seems strange, is something in your spirit that is wanting to get out. Even if it is bogey, it's like verbal, it's like written bogey. Let it come out of you. Dancing is like a really great one. Chanting, this kind of like womb breathing that I was talking to you about, and like playful, bringing fun into your everyday. When I say fun, I mean joy and pleasure without reason. And so painting, for example, is one that's really important to me. And in fact, I can't paint when sometimes I can't paint when it's too serious, which is funny because most of my pieces are inspired by suffering and like pain and like the transformational journey of life. But when I get too ego bound and prescriptive with it, I get blocked because something in me goes, oh, you're logging it out. You're just making it too. Why has everything got to be a thing with you? Like, just trust that if you turned up, you could do it. Those are the kind of things. So like smelling flowers, going on a walk, hugging a tree. This is one of my biggest, and I'm not saying these things like willy-nilly, by the way. Each one of these practices are soul and spiritual practices that have saved my life throughout this lockdown. And it's what people call church or temple or school, is to hug a tree. That is facts. Hug a tree. It actually stretches this area, your sternum, your intercostal muscles. I don't know what it is, but as a chronic pain haver, the way something about the wide reach that your arms have and the way you look up but are supported by bark, it's very different to doing this stretch where you do like that. When you hug a tree, it's like, oh my God, you are holding space for me and with me. Thank you. The ogene has been lent to me from my papa, daddy, Nwokoro, and our community group, Umano no Unsu. Igbo kwenu. Hey, Unsu kwenu. Unsu kwenu. Hey, Unsu kwenu. Yes, so but you can look for an ogene. I've seen one online. I've seen one on Etsy, but then this one came to me because sometimes I just be manifesting. So yeah, you call out for it. Start speaking to your inner child, and just start to reflect on what it used to be like, and then imagine what those things would look like in your day-to-day now. So if you used to love making music and you're Nkwo energy, which is an air energy, so it's like your energy is it loves sound, it loves wind. Nkwo is air, it is the rhythm, it is the vibration, is the beat. So you're drawn to music, so you should be near the heartbeat, near the you want to hear. You're here now listening to this voice. You know, where can you hear vibrations? Zzz, zzz, zzz. And do some sounds are some sounds? Do you want to make sounds? Do you want to listen to sounds? Binaural frequencies for inner child healing would probably be really great for you as a more air energy. And if anyone is interested in what I mean by Nkwo and about talking about people's elemental energies at their core, then we can do that in another time. But I've given so many methodologies for connecting to your inner child, and there's so much more, like journaling, compassion letter writing, poetry, playing games. Like, absolutely, if you feel a part of you is like, games are not for me, that's exactly where you need to go. And it's not like healthy competition, healthy like doodling, watch the clouds, just draw and say you don't know what's going to come out. Those are the sweet spots. You need to walk down a road, but you don't know where you're walking down. But in terms of like expression, let yourself to do things intuitively. You want to sing, you want to rap, you want to make instruments. Follow those fires. That's your terrain. Then if you're an air sign and your terrain is musical, you should already have things in your space that create different air energies and different sounds. Like, I have bubbles because it's a kind of like airy energy when I need to shift things, which I do now because I'm coming to the end of this life. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, everyone that has come, that has built a new community here, that has engaged and that has affirmed the path that I have been on as a creative healer and mystic over the last couple of years, with by bearing space and sharing space with me. Your presence is more than enough for this life. That is the biggest lesson that I could give and share, is that, like, you're here. That is such a gift. There are like angels that really sing about it. Like, I'm one of them. And so, yeah, thank you, like, for turning up and for helping me to feel less alone. And please, like, anyone that is not live but is listening to this at a future point, please leave comments and let me know what resonated with you. Let me know what you want to see me reflect on in future lives. I've got plenty of things I can talk to you about, from being a soulful human being, to having a legal cannabis prescription, to founding a new company, Black Mind, and to exploring soul, spirit, and the elements, while living in a very, very chaotic time to be alive. I know there aren't many community spaces that are always connecting to indigenous, African, land-based magical technologies. And I really want this to be that, as well as to be a highly scientific, deliciously poetic, and also a silent space for listening and reflecting. You have been here at the beginning, and I hope that we continue to journey together, finding the home within our soul. Thank you. Imela, Ahurum Gnanya, I see you, and most of all, I love you. Good night, everybody. I'll see you soon. I have been Ezenwanyi, Amarachi, Rachel Nwokoro, and this is Black Mind YouTube. Bye.